Teachers of Reddit, what clicked about a pupil after meeting their parents? Student teaching for high school seniors and juniors. I had this guy that was a shady 80. No specific problems, just very low intelligence. But this guy worked his ass off. Never a late assignment. Did all extra credit that was offered. Made flashcards for like every test and quiz even though I never said to. Model student. Just had low test scores. If it was an assignment that could be done with time and effort, he did it. Unfortunately tests aren't like that, and that's where he had the most problems. Back to school night comes along and I meet his dad, Unco in the Marines. Courteous, well spoken, and completely knowledgeable about all of his son's upcoming assignments and grades. Totally made sense. Kid is getting through with hard work and dedication and pulling off a B average. Amazing what support from parents can do. In most cases, a kid like this would probably be failing most of his classes. Had an 8th grade student. Great kid, 100% responsible, academically talented, and would always speak in short clipped sentences and look like he was a frightened deer about to bolt. Had a conference with him and his parents together in which the kid was supposed to be leading the conference, reflecting on his growth and identifying his challenges. Every time the kid opened his mouth to say something, he'd get halfway through the sentence and mom would finish it for him. Poor kid was always trying to get ideas out quickly so he wouldn't be interrupted. I had a 2nd grade student who was constantly getting into pretty serious physical altercations with others, stabbing kids with pencils, slapping girls across the face, etc. The first time I met his mom was when she came up to the school threatening to choke me because I said her son couldn't come on a field trip to the pumpkin patch because he was too violent. Not a teacher, but I do volunteer work for a program designed to help students who are habitually truant. Had one middle schooler who was super bright, genuinely seemed to love school, got great grades, but was absent about half the time. He was very evasive about why he wasn't coming to class, and I honestly didn't put him high on my list because he was doing fine even with the missed days. When I was finally able to get a social worker to go by his house, it turned out his single mother was having seizures and didn't have any healthcare, so she couldn't get treatment for them, and the kid was staying home to take care of both her and his younger brother. I felt just terrible for the kid having to be so adult while still in middle school. These children, there were 3 of them, were known for being difficult at the after-school care I worked in. The eldest, 5th grade, would refuse to listen to us. He would often kick other children, provoke them by grabbing them and pulling them in close, or just act out in a way that was verbally abusive. When we asked him to stop, he would respond with "screw you." The middle, 3rd grade, struggled to pay attention for more than 5 minutes, and often picked on other kids by intentionally stirring them up and spreading rumors. The youngest, kindergarten, was 6 but still not entirely toilet trained, and had to repeat kindergarten because she wasn't at normal developmental or social levels. One afternoon, the eldest is in a pretty good mood. Because I'm curious, I ask, and he announces proudly, "Dad is picking me up early at 4 p.m. because we are going to see a movie this afternoon." This is awesome, because the 3 kids are always last to be picked up, but 4 p.m. comes and goes, and there's no sign of Dad. 4:30 p.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m. It's closing time. We get a call from Dad. "I'm sorry, I got caught up. It's almost 7 p.m. before Dad arrives." As the kids grab their bags, he tries to explain to me, but he's sort of all over the place. Some actual quotes from our conversation. "Don't tell the kids, but I'm so gone right now. I stayed back with some mates and had some drinks. Investment banking is stressful, so you look forward to Friday. So, you'd be, what, 20 now? What's a young pretty thing like you doing working so late on a Friday night?" He offers to slip some cash to me and my co-worker for the extra time. My mate is driving us home. I only trust some of my mates with the new Porsche. The nail in the coffin was when eldest asked Dad, "I thought you said we were going to see that movie tonight," to which he replies simply, "Oh, yeah, sorry mate, I forgot." And at that moment, I realized that these kids were being told over and over and over, "You don't really matter that much to me." I was a teacher in a deaf school for many years. Kids lived on campus as well. I would take the kids home for visits on weekends. One kid was a major behavior problem and always screamed and yelled and broke things and was just generally all around disruptive. We got along better than most staff did, so I volunteered to take him home one weekend he missed his van. When I got to his house, none of his family members even looked at him. He was a teenager by this point. Freaking family never took the time to learn sign language. Yeah, all his problems made a lot of sense to me at that point. Not a teacher, but a youth worker. Sibling group. All speak as if they are deaf. Accent. Incorrect emphasis. Excluded sounds. And exhibit rash. Impulsive behavior. High instances of school refusal. But polite. Ambitious. Aspirational. Popular and well dressed. Turns out mum had an intellectual disability and was a drug addict, so all 3 kids had IDs and possibly FASD. But grandma was a drug dealer, so they always had loads of money for clothes and food and drugs. Kids had just learned to speak like that based on their mum's speech, which was affected by her constant drug use. When I was student teaching, 2nd grade, there was a little boy in the class who was just a genuinely friendly and sweet kid. He struggled a little academically when it came to learning to read, and his handwriting had some problems. But he was the hardest worker and never got frustrated or thought that he was stupid like many other students with those difficulties do. He was well liked by everyone and didn't have a mean bone in his body. And he was extremely well adjusted, despite the fact that his parents were divorced. I ended up meeting both parents separately during field trips. Both parents are extremely involved in his life and put him ahead of any of their problems they have with each other. They genuinely want what's best for him, and it shows. The dad takes him out to the sports bar for boys' night where they share root beer, which I thought was really cool. Both parents genuinely are awesome people with great attitudes, and it definitely shows in their kid. When I was student teaching, I had a student who seemed to have textbook fetal alcohol syndrome. Then one day I saw her with her mother at Target, and I recognized her mother as one of the long-time regulars, that is, chronic alcoholics, at a bar I worked at in college. The whole thing made sense, and it was very sad. College freshman was constantly late, didn't turn work in on time or at all, etc. She had an excuse for every single thing. I wasn't even asking. She just volunteered excuses. After getting a D in my class, which was frankly a bit generous as her actual grade was a high F, her mother called me. I wasn't allowed to discuss a student's performance with anyone, including their parents, and I told her as much. Her mother then, unprompted, gave me a long string of excuses for her daughter and, oddly, herself. I kind of thought, oh, that makes sense now. Obviously an extreme example here, but I had a student, an 8th grader, who was quiet to the point of absolute silence, but who did extraordinarily well with the written word. A few times, he showed up with bruises, which I naturally reported, but he was adamant that they were from other students. Surprisingly, his parents came in for PTC and seemed relatively normal, until he went to speak for himself and I saw his father grip his arm so tightly that it left a mark. I understood immediately that his parents basically didn't let him speak at all for fear of reprisal. A few weeks afterward, the kid stopped showing up to school, and word eventually got around that he got caught up in a REM lab explosion in his parents' house and was covered head to toe in 2nd and 3rd degree burns. He came back a month or so later, covered in bandages. He couldn't move, write, or really do anything without excruciating pain. I'd never cried so hard as I did that day. My wife called a student's parents to talk about the kid swearing all the time and general bad attitude. After explaining to the mom why she was calling, I told that goddamn kid a million freaking times to watch his freaking mouth. Jesus Christ, wait till his freaking daddy gets home. This one broke my heart and it's something I still think about from time to time. Just a few months into my first year, several 5th grade students were sent home for lice. One was a small, blonde girl named Jean who was fairly quiet and shy. Her clothes were always somewhat unkempt and had a strong cigarette smoke odor. She very rarely completed her homework and hated answering questions in class. However, she was kind, attentive, and performed well on her in-class assignments. We had another round of head checking about a week after the first one and found that Jean still had caught lice again. She was sent home with a call to the parents letting them know. The next day she walked into the classroom with a shaved head. Her parents shaved her hair off so that they did not have to deal with the lice again. She cried when I asked her about it. I felt horrible for her, 5th grade is a tough place to be when you have something that is obviously different about you that other kids can pick on. I could not grow her hair back for her, but I did buy her a cute hat that I allowed her wear in my class if she wanted. It seemed to help. When I met her parents shortly after, they showed up with 3 younger kids that looked about a year apart with the same shaved haircut as Jane. The parents smelled like cigarette smoke and pet urine odor, and I could hear them cursing at their kids in the hallway before I even saw them. A girl in my 7th grade class was really bright, but almost never turned in her homework, so she just skated by on test scores. One time, I commended her for helping another student who didn't understand the assignment, only to realize that night that she didn't do her own. I called her parents in and quickly realized they're the type that have an answer for everything, and were all too quick to put the responsibility on me, as if I should stand over their daughter to make sure she works. I turned to ask the girl what she thought, since she had been completely quiet, and her parents began to answer for her again. I put my finger, index, up and said, "No, you've had your turn. I want to hear what she thinks about all this." Well, she apparently really appreciated that, because she went on for about 30 minutes about all her views on education. At the end, I kept her parents quiet and told her that if she's willing to talk such a big game, she needs to back it up and do the work without her parents or me interfering. She didn't miss another assignment all year. Proud teacher moment. I have a student who is really friendly, really smart, and amazing at English. I am an ESL teacher abroad. She is always really friendly to me and always really hardworking. She constantly helps other kids in class who struggle with the material and overall just a great girl. I met her dad once at a school event and holy goodness was this guy awesome. He was a really genuine and generous character and even invited me to get to know different parts of the city with his family. I could definitely tell they had a close bond and that he had raised her really well. Just an example of good people raising other good people. Kindergarten teacher here had a student who would much rather sing everything than talk, and she was happiest just spinning around in circles and singing. Met her parents, band teacher and a dance instructor. Such a sweet and happy family. My best friend is a teacher. He told about this one kid's parents he met. The kid was insanely smart, genius level. He would finish his work and just play on his phone or talk to friends, but he had 0 homework turn-in rate. My friend requested to meet his parents, ended up finding out that his father would beat him repeatedly, and the kid would never truly go home, but rather take up working instead of being home with his father. It was sad because the kid admitted that he was capable of doing his homework, but he was too scared to and just didn't have to face his dad. Apparently later the kid came back to meet a couple teachers and rolled up in a BMW i8. I guess he made it out somewhere. This is from back when I was doing my student teaching. There was a girl in one of my classes that never did any work in class, turned in her homework late, and would ignore huge projects until literally the last minute and then ask to come in for help every day at lunch after school to make up for the missing work. Eventually I caught her cheating on a quiz. I took her quiz, gave her a 0, and told her that cheating wasn't allowed. About a week later, we had parent-teacher conferences. The girl came with her mother, who took out every assignment that had been graded and handed back, and proceeded to argue with me over individual points. Things along the lines of, well, she spelled it all right, so that deserves some credit, right? Or she circled the right answer, so she should still get some credit when that right answer had been crossed off and then another answer had been selected. This took nearly an hour to go through. Finally, the mother brought up the quiz, and I told her about the cheating. The mom said, well, you should give her some credit on it. She was pretty clever to think of that trick. From then on, I made sure to schedule meetings with myself, my mentor teacher, and the principal present. Clearly it wasn't that clever, since she got caught. I was telling the parent that their child was generally inattentive. He would look around, fidget, and just nod along smiling when I knew he hadn't been listening. As I was consulting my notes, I looked up to see the parent looking around the room, bouncing their leg. As soon as they realized that I was done talking, they nodded and smiled. Not a teacher but a student. In kindergarten we had this kid who was really odd and smelled funny, but he seemed cool, so we would hang out at recess. I had a birthday party and it was only supposed to last maybe a few hours. All of the kids but him went home fairly early, but it was really late and his parents still hadn't showed up. I was getting tired and wanted to go to bed, so my parents set up some blankets for us in the living room and we had a sleepover. At 2 AM his parents finally show up. After multiple calls with no answer, instantly I realized what was up. Even as a small child I knew these parents were the definition of white trash. They reeked of alcohol. My mom's side of the family is full of alcoholics, so I knew what it smelled like. They also told some story about how they had new tires of their car and the speedometer showed the wrong speed and they got pulled over and some other BS. It all clicked why he acted so odd and why he smelled. It was cigarette smoke. At the start of first grade he never showed up, and then like a month into the year he was there for a few days. Then randomly in third grade he showed back up again for a few weeks. I never saw him again after that. I looked him up on Facebook a while back and it looks like he is following in his parents' footsteps, falling into every white trash stereotype. I asked my parents about this kid a while ago and they said that the reason he wasn't with us in school for a few years is that he got taken away by Child Protective Services, which my mom called. Then he came back the few times because that's when his parents got him back, but he was taken away again and that's why he left us. I feel bad for the kid because at first he was really nice, but over time as I saw him again he became more mean and rude. Such crappy parents. One of my students is safe playing. He won't try any new ideas while doing maths and would frequently look out to applying some formulas. I used to think that he genuinely is less creative than others, but at times, particularly when playing games, he would show bursts of real brilliance. When I met his mother, it clicked why. The mother burst into tears saying she was afraid what would happen if the child would fail. She really desperately wanted him to succeed, and because of this desire has all but closed his chances of success. He is so afraid of failure that he doesn't even try. Had a kid that you looked at and it was very much a lights are on but nobody is home sort of feeling. I teach high school, so sometimes that's just the phase they are in, but this one was basically living perpetually in that mode. Kid has an IEP, Individualized Educational Plan, which is a legal special education doc. I can't reveal what was in there, but it was, suffice to say, generic. So it feels like there are pieces missing. Days go on. This kid is the gold standard of something is up. Completely illegible handwriting to the point it doesn't resemble writing. You ask about what we are doing in class and the answer is so random and off task that if the kid didn't look and act fairly childlike for their age you would assume hardcore drug use. But this kid, if anything, had Ralph Wiggum genes and didn't know what drugs were. Mom comes to back to school night, which is supposed to be 5 minutes with a class of parents. A nice how do you do and everyone moves on. She corners me, immediately starts telling me about her concerns that I don't fully appreciate her miracle baby who was mute until 8, didn't walk until 4, walked backwards first, and had an IQ of about 60. They told her this kid would never make it in school and didn't. I think you just couldn't tell anything was ever delayed, because this is a miracle. That's why she blocked all mention of those conditions from the documents, because people would never guess otherwise. Miracle. When the word miracle comes up from a parent it always explains a lot. You found my secret gold stash comment. Gold for me, and you can have some, maybe. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.